By technicality, I am talking about a Marvel movie today. So if you've been following the logic in regards to where I'm going for the Disney reviews, this one will be about Big Hero 6, which came out in 2014. Big Hero 6 is a Marvel property. The movie came about because, several of the different people that, of course, ended up working on the movie were big Marvel fans. Of course, they'd grown up on the Marvel comics, and they'd probably seen a fair amount of the cinematic universe that had come out at that point in time. And Disney had, purchased Marvel and everything, so they're, making a list of, what comics do we want to do? And there is a comic series that is called Big Hero 6. Not exactly the same as what ends up happening in, the actual movie in regards to the exact same characters. There's some that are still there, and there's some that have been adjusted a little bit to work a little bit better for this variation of it. But the movie is kind of described as Marvel, Disney, and Pixar all had a baby together. And I'm like, I am still perfectly okay with this concept. Another one of the animated Marvel movies I may end up doing at some point is the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I do plan on doing a video about that at some point, but that's not a Disney video. That'll be like just a different video down the line. But this video is going to be about Big Hero 6, so I actually made sure that I have at least 6 heroes represented behind me. I got Cap over here in his helmet, I got an Iron Man doll and his helmet, of course. I have Jane Foster Thor right here. I'll actually pull her closer so you can see her. Jane Foster Thor. Love and Thunder. I cannot wait to see Love and Thunder. And then I also have Polaris, who is Scarlet Witch's and Quicksilver's sister in the comics. I have no idea if they're going to be able to pull her into the actual Marvel Cinematic Universe. That would be very interesting. We also have, I believe this is Magic. I believe she's a mutant of some kind. It's been a while since I've caught up on her. And then, of course, if you watched my Pride Month series, this is Angela, Odin's daughter. She is Thor's biological sister. Loki's then adopted sister because he was adopted in. She is kind of a goddess that was kidnapped and raised by angels in heaven, and then kind of rebelled against that, and then went all the way down to the depths of hell to save her love, and then moved her way and now lives in New York because reasons. And then, of course, I have a giant fan back here. I apologize. I do not know if this is actually a Chinese fan or a Japanese fan. I got it when I worked at Goodwill, but I really liked it, and it fits the motif given the fact that the movie itself for Big Hero 6 takes place in the fictional city of San Fransokia. Brief history on why it is called San Fransokia. And they have this history that is stated on the website in regards to the movie itself. The reason that the city is called San Francisco, it kind of looks like, Tokyo kind of like ate San Francisco to a degree, is because it's like time divergent type thing. In the 1906 earthquake, the San Francisco earthquake that happened, this is just in the timeline of this. I mean, the San Francisco earthquake was a real thing, obviously, you can look it up. But in this universe, that after the San Francisco earthquake happened, they actually rebuilt the city using different techniques that were used in Japan to make the buildings more flexible, so that way if there was another earthquake, there wouldn't be as much damage. And therefore the city was renamed San Francisco as a reference to that, and it basically built up the same way. And it kind of shows like there's this very good relationship between the U.S. and Japan at that point in time. Don't ask me if World War II for the Pacific Theater still happened at that point in time. I don't know. That wasn't covered in the movie or any of the information that I found as far as I'm aware. But I love the design that they came up with for the city. And another Disney location I have technically been to, because I have been to San Francisco several years ago when I was in, I think this was just before I started middle school, or right when I was in middle school. My mom flew us out to California. Flew me and her out to California, and we landed in LA, and we did all the Disney, did Disneyland and did California Adventures that was out there. And then we drove up the coast, and we, went through San Francisco, and we drove across the Golden Gate Bridge and everything. And we went up to Sacramento to stay with my aunt and uncle. We also met my aunt and my grandmother partway, and we went to a whole bunch of places there. Like we went to Hearst Castle, and we went to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and all these other amazing things that I do want to go back and see again. But so I have been to San Francisco. But moving into the actual part of the movie takes place actually in I think the year of like 2035 or something like that. So it's like they moved it ahead a little while in timeline phrase because there's a few other things. I was like, well, how can we have that like all of these students are building these cool science, futuristic tech, and have it be believable? And why don't we move it ahead about 20 years? Okay, that'll work. So our main character in the movie is Hiro Hamada. He is a young genius and a robotics expert and everything, and he makes a robot that he goes and then he does bot fighting with because reasons. He is 14 years old. His brother Tadashi, who we meet as well, states that Hiro graduated high school at 13. And Hiro goes and he's part of this bot fight, and he basically hustles the people that are in charge of the bot fight to get a bunch of money, and he does end up winning. And then, of course, they try to take the money from him, and his brother shows up and saves him, and they have to, try to escape, and then they all get arrested. And then their aunt, Aunt Cass, has to come and get them out of, jail for the night. We find out that their parents have been dead for about 10 years, and that they live with their aunt. And she has this great line. And so it's like, should I have done more research? When she gets them home, she's like, should I have done more research when it came to being a parent? Probably. Should I have picked up a book on parenting? Definitely. Was I ready to be a parent? No. And I'm like, this is my exact answer if ever I am required to take full custody of my nieces and nephew from my sister, because me. We do learn that Tadashi and Hiro are half Japanese, half American, or half Japanese, half white. So it's a very eclectic cast actually in this movie, and I'll go over that later in regards to that. And their aunt runs this cafe that is called the Lucky Cat Cafe. And, she obviously loves the boys very much, takes very good care of them, has been their guardian since their parents died. And Tadashi basically is trying to convince Hiro that it's like, no, you don't need to go and do more bot fighting. You need to find a way to use your big brain to actually make the world better. And he basically tricks Hiro into coming with him to the San Fransokia Institute of Technology, which is the college that they have there that Tadashi goes to, where Hiro then meets Tadashi's friends, Gogo Tamago, Wasabi, Honey Lemon, and Fred. And he sees that, Hiro has basically been calling the place his nerd lab and his nerd school the entire time. And he just, he's not interested in going to college and everything. He's like, why should I go to college for him to teach me stuff that I already know, type of a thing. And he goes and he ends up seeing what they're doing. Tamago, or Gogo Tamago, she is actually working on making this bike that she is using like magnetic suspension in order to make the bike go very, very fast. Wasabi is using his tech to work with lasers, and like he has this like laser grid, and he like throws an apple through it, and like the pieces of the apple come out like paper thin. And then there's Honey Lemon, and she is very, very good with like chemicals and such like that. And she has this giant like 400-pound ball of tungsten that she rolls in, and then she shows Hiro like mixes together this whole chemical compound, superheats it with a torch, and then sprays it all over the ball of tungsten, and then it makes it entirely pink, and then she just like taps it, and it just like falls apart and like explodes and like puts pink everywhere, and it's just like, I made it brittle. And she's just like so funny in that case. Honey Lemon is also this very, very, very loud, talk in your face type of a thing. Gogo is very much this, she's described as the female version of Clint Eastwood. So don't make her angry. And then Wasabi is very much kind of this, OCD germ type thing. He, everything has its place, everything has a place and everything in its place type of a thing. He also takes safety very important, which, I mean, given the fact that he works with lasers in a lab with, fairly unpredictable people is not surprising. So I would expect him to want to keep everything nice and safe and clean and everything. So that's understandable. And then we meet Fred. Fred is the one of them that is not a student. He is actually the school mascot by day and the school mascot by night. He's like this, has this like monster suit that he wears as the institute's mascot. And he's very good friends with all the people in the science lab. He loves science. Fred loves science. He's just not very good at science himself. And he's like very good friends with all of them. And like he's like, I keep trying to get them to make me stuff. Like I try to get Honey Lemon to make me something that'll turn me into a monster. But that's not science. Honey Lemon, it's not science. And it's like I tried to get Wasabi to make me a shrink ray. No. And like he's trying to list up all this stuff, and he's like, what about this? An invisible sandwich. You're eating a sandwich, but everybody thinks you're crazy. I'm like, then just do that anyway. Fred is very interesting. And then we are also introduced to Baymax, who is Tadashi's creation. He's this personal healthcare companion robot that Tadashi has created and coded and designed and built and everything. And he shows Baymax to Hiro, and Hiro is kind of, tries to, outsmart the robot, but the robot, keeps, basically like, he's like, oh, I have an allergy to that type of thing. And Baymax is like, no, you do not. You do have a mild allergy to peanuts. And Baymax is just adorable. In regards to I'm just going to go over this now for Baymax. When they were developing all the different moving, the character rigs for the characters, Baymax was basically like, we want him to move as little as possible. And whenever we do, we want it to be funny. So his basically movement design is based off of a toddler with a full diaper. Yeah, that's just hilarious. And like he, like head moves and then like the rest of the body moves and like all this other funny stuff that happens with him, and that's just so funny, and I love Baymax. He's so adorable. Baymax is actually from the comics, if I remember correctly. They took several of the characters from the actual Big Hero 6 comics and then just kind of reworked them a little bit into this. There were a couple of characters that they couldn't use because of certain copyright issues at the time. Like Fox still had copyright issues to certain characters in regards to like X-Men characters, but they were still able to use a fair amount of the other characters. They redesigned them a little bit and such. So that's just kind of fun. And Hiro then meets one of the professors at the school, Robert Callahan, and he basically realizes that, oh my god, I have to go to this school. And Tadashi's like, okay, you want to get into school? You got to blow Professor Callahan away in regards to what you're going to do. And it's like, you want to do that? Science fair, basically thing. And it's like, there's this project fair that they do every year, come in, try to blow the professors away, all this fun stuff. And, you do all this and you'll get it. So then Hiro works and works and works, and he's trying to figure out what to do, but he can't come up with any good ideas. And then, his brother kind of like helps him, adjust his image of the world. Tadashi basically picks his brother up and like puts him over his shoulders upside down and like shakes him around and everything, trying to get him to, think stuff out. And he does, and he actually takes the design that he has for his robot and miniaturizes the pieces and makes a neural transmitter headband that he can then use to control the pieces and make them do what he wants. He then, creates all the pieces and everything. And his garage, I'm like, okay, either you're siphoning money from your brother in regards to this, or you're still doing bot fighting but using it to pay for this stuff, or your aunt has more money than we think. Then again, we don't know what their parents did, so they may have money from their parents that they can then use for this type of stuff. I'm not sure. And, the aunt is very supportive of all of this. And, like, Hiro gets to know, Tadashi's friends because, like, they come over and everything. And, Tadashi and Hiro, very much brotherly bond and everything. And Tadashi is very supportive of him. And they get all the, the microbots ready for the presentation. And, they're like little nanobots now. They're like really, really tiny. And they get them to the presentation and they're ready to show them off. And there's like all this other presentation stuff going on at the, expo as well to a degree. So kind of think like the Stark Expo that you see in Iron Man 2, but smaller. Or the Stark Expo that you see in Captain America that is being hosted by Howard. Without the flying car. Although there is like a mind reading device thing. From Back to the Future in this movie at the science fair. Personal note, I have been in multiple science fairs over the years when I was in elementary school and in middle school, and I got purple ribbons for 2 of them and blue ribbon for 1 of them. I would have probably gotten a purple ribbon for the 3rd one, but unfortunately I didn't cite my sources well enough apparently. But I did very well for those, and unfortunately I don't know where those ribbons are. I might know where one of them is. But So I liked science when I was growing up, as when I was a kid and everything. One was about like acids and bases, one was about like fresh and saltwater crocodiles, and then one of them was about like whales. Whales and whaling, killing the whales and stuff like that. But back to the movie. Hiro does this great, he gets very nervous at the beginning of the performance, but he does this great performance in regards to the showing off what the nanobots can do and everything. And, makes them, shows that they can be used for building, used for, makes them walk around, and, like him walking on top of them, sliding along the ceiling, different things like that, showing what he can do with the nanobots, just with controlling them with his mind with the headband. And, Professor Callahan is very impressed, and he's like, okay, I'll, come in, you got to come to the school and everything, gives him the invitation for that. And then we also meet this new character called Alistair Cray, who is the head of the Cray Tech, who is the head of Cray Tech, who is this technology type company. And Cray and Callahan are obviously instantly shown that they do not care for each other. Callahan specifically does not care for Cray. And Cray wants to invite Hiro to come and work for him. And Hiro changes his mind. He doesn't want to go and work for Cray. He wants to go to the Institute. And, we get some interaction there and everything. And then, Hiro and, the rest, Cass is at the presentation along with, Tadashi's friends. Now, Hiro's friends were all at the presentation. And they're all very happy and everything, and they're, congratulating Hiro and everything. And they go back to, they're all ready to go back home and everything, but Tadashi and Hiro go and walk around and talk and everything, just, brotherly bonding time. And then we hear a siren going off, and they run back to the, exhibition hall where it's on fire. And Tadashi, everybody's running out, and it's like, but Professor Callahan's still in there, and Tadashi runs back in to go and try to save Professor Callahan. And there's this explosion, and Tadashi and Callahan die. Hiro's heartbroken, Cass is heartbroken, the whole school is heartbroken in regards to losing a student and a teacher, and it's just this, we see the stuff from the, them after the funeral and everything, and how the friends are all being very supportive of, Aunt Cass, and, Hiro is just kind of in this numb place, and I don't blame him in the slightest for being in this just, like, numb area. I know what it's like to lose family members, and particularly ones where it's way too early to lose them, and it is not fun by any means. It is this hole that is just like, that's not supposed to happen type of thing. The kid, all of the students, the four friends are trying, they try to help Hiro feel better and everything, but Hiro just kind of isolates himself, including kind of isolates himself from his aunt. And then one day when he's in his room, he accidentally ends up, dropping something on his foot, and he says, ow, and this activates a Baymax that is actually in the room that he didn't know was there. Whether it's like they gave Baymax to his aunt and put it in the room, or whether or not Tadashi had like taken Baymax to the house and like put it in their house up in their room in case in case Hiro needed it or something, is never explained. But it activates, and Baymax tries to help. Is like, well, where is Tadashi? And it's like Hiro basically explains Tadashi is dead, and Baymax is of course trying to help Hiro, because that's what he's programmed to do. He's programmed to be a personal healthcare companion, and Hiro is very much against anything that that Baymax is trying to do. It's like the stages of grief, anger, denial, bargaining, acceptance, and grieving, all of those. Hiro's kind of in the anger stage of this, of course, and I don't blame him. And what ends up happening is they end up finding one of the little last robots that Hiro had made, and it's trying to move, and it looks like it's trying to go somewhere. And Baymax is trying to, of course, help Hiro, and he's like, well, if I find where your tiny robot wants to go, will that make you feel better? And Hiro's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And Baymax like takes the tiny robot, and like it's in like one of these like the petri dishes type thing. It's in that, so it's just like it keeps like bing, bing, think, 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 like trying to go somewhere, and like Baymax is like slowly following it. And we get this kind of like chase scene where like Hiro is like kind of like trying to chase Baymax through the city, and like we see him and his aunt, and he's trying to keep Baymax a secret from his aunt, and he comes downstairs and she's like, "Oh my God, you left your room," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to the school and get signed up for classes." She's like, "Oh yay, I'm so happy. We're just gonna have like a movie night tonight. We're gonna eat these wings, that are so hot they make our faces numb, and it's just gonna be great." And Hiro runs off trying to catch Baymax. And we just get like this kind of like a chase scene through San Fransokia, where it's just like train cars and Baymax on the car, and like Hiro trying to chase him, and like crowd scenes and stuff like that, just kind of show off the way that the city is designed. As Baymax is going, and then they find their way to this kind of like abandoned warehouse, and they sneak their way inside through like a window, and it's just kind of funny because like they have to climb into the window, and then Baymax has to kind of climb through the window, but he's so puffy that he's like trying to get through the window, and he's just like stuck, and he's like, "Excuse me while I let out some air." So it's like you worked a fart joke into a movie with a robot. And it's just like funny because it's just like you hear like the woo type noise of like the air being released like out of a balloon. And then Baymax pulls his gets through the window, and Hiro goes to start searching while Baymax kind of reinflates himself. And Hiro ends up finding this little production line thing that are making thousands and thousands, probably millions to a degree, of the different nanobots that he created. And he's just like so confused by that. And then they end up getting attacked. And it's this guy in a kabuki mask is what he's referred to as. The man in the mask, guy in the kabuki mask, kabuki guy, whatever you want to refer to him as, is what he has. And he uses the mask to make all of the nanobots then attack Hiro and Baymax. And there's this, kind of, chase sequence where they're trying to, escape all of them and everything. The nanobots are basically just like, they're really tiny, but, it's this whole concept of like the army ant concept or whatever. Just like one, they multiply, and it's just like so many of them working together in a perfect unit to do what they're supposed to do. And that's what ends up happening, is they're trying to chase them, and like they fall out of a window, like Baymax, protects Hiro by like wrapping his arms around him so Hiro doesn't get hurt. And then they go to the police station, and they try to explain to the police officer that there's this guy in a kabuki mask, and he's trying to attack us, and he stole my nanobots. And the police officer is just literally like, "So a man in a kabuki mask stole your tiny robots, and you had Mr. Marshmallow Man here," looking at Baymax, who's just like standing there. Like Baymax was like tries to inflate his arm, and it's like air is popping out of it, so he keeps taking tape, and he's like taping the things on his arm to prevent the air from escaping. And at one point, like he just keeps taking tape, and the officer just like pushes the tape closer to him, which I just find hilarious. And he's like, "Okay, well, let's call your parents." And like Hiro's like, "No, no, no, no," and like him and Baymax run out. And he decides that he's just going to build like an armor for Baymax. And, he builds, he 3D prints like this, I don't remember what type, carbon fiber armor or something like that for Baymax to use. And the first outfit is very funny. And like Baymax is just like, "I have this feeling that this armor is going to make me not seem so approachable and make me seem very threatening." And it's like, it's just funny. And at one point he's just like covered in the armor, and he's just like, "I have some concerns." I love Baymax. But like when they get back to the house the first time, after they've been chased by the man in the kabuki mask, Baymax's battery is running low, and it's just basically Baymax is acting kind of drunk, which is hilarious. I'm just like sitting there when I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, please, dear God, I either want it to be that they planned for something like this to happen, or the guy that voices Baymax is just like well, I have an idea of something that might be funny, but I don't know how you'd be able to use it in the movie. And then they just go with that. Or it might be something that's based on something that happens in the comics. I'm not super familiar with the Big Hero 6 comics. That might be something that happens in the comics where, like, if Baymax gets low on battery, he kind of starts acting drunk and everything like that. Like, he can't, like, tries to go up the stairs, tries to step, and then and, like, all this other stuff, like, just kind of, waddles up the stairs and, all this other funny stuff. And, like, Hero's, like, kind of lying to his aunt, and she's just like, Simone, I made, like, the food and everything. And she's like, well, and Hero's like, well, I actually have a lot of homework that I need to get caught up on in regards to, being in class, because I signed up for classes. And she's like, okay, well, you have good luck with that. She's very proud of him and everything. And, they, go off, and Baymax is upstairs, and he's, like, petting the cat, and it's just like, Harry, baby. I'm sorry, that's funny. I love Baymax. Or, like, them trying to make him like, I am not fast. Clearly. Baymax is not designed to be threatening. He is designed to be approachable and huggable and lovable and, your personal healthcare companion and everything. And, and that's when Hero designs him, more information, designs the armor and everything. And Baymax keeps trying to tell Hero that, no, Tadashi is here. And, Hero just like, no, Tadashi's gone. It's like, people keep telling me that, yeah, he's not gone as long as we remember him and everything. But he is gone and, all this other stuff. And, they make the armor, and then they, he also, like, puts in, like, this new chip that allows Baymax to have all these, like, karate moves and stuff like that. And is using, puts that into Baymax alongside the chip that Tadashi made, that is the healthcare companion chip. And, he uses those against Baymax, puts those into Baymax. And, then they head off to go and try to find the man in the kabuki mask again, which they do find him. And they are subsequently also found by the four friends, by Go-Go and Honey Lemon and Wasabi and Fred, because Baymax kind of called them. And, like, they follow Hero, and they find him, and, like, they're trying to talk to him and everything and make him, help him through his thing. I was just like, Go-Go's like, why is Baymax wearing carbon fiber underpants? And Baymax is like, I also know karate. It's just like, why did you teach the healthcare robot karate type of thing? And then they all get attacked by the man in the kabuki mask. And this results in another chase sequence where, like, Wasabi doesn't want to go over the speed limit or doesn't want to break the speed limit. And Go-Go is just like, screw this, takes her gun, puts it down, jumps into the driver's seat, and she just, like, drives. And Wasabi's just like, what are you doing? And it was just this great, chase sequence and everything through San Francisco, being chased by the man in the mask. With Baymax, like, keeping them all in the car and keeping them safe and, protecting them the way that he's supposed to. And then, unfortunately, they do end up kind of careening off of a bridge area into, like, the harbor. The man in the mask kind of chased them there. And when Hero and, Baymax had found him a second time, they found him digging something up out of the water, which had, like, this, like, bird symbol on it. And Hero's trying to figure out what that was. And the car ends up careening into the water. And, then Baymax, gets all out of the, his armor and, like, saves all of them, floats them to the surface. Tip, and I did learn this from Mythbusters, I kind of had an idea of it as well. If for some reason your car does go into a lake or a river or something like that and your car is sinking and, you want to get out of it faster, take a deep breath and roll down the windows. Because, the sooner that the outside of the water pressure on the car matches the inside water pressure on the car, you'll be able to open the doors better. Admittedly, if you're, small enough, you can, like, swim through the window, of course, to get out. But if you need to, like, actually physically open the doors to get out of the car, then, roll down the windows, let the car fill up faster, and then get out. If that's the case, to the point where the car is that far sunk. Just, tip, learned it from Mythbusters, just do that. And Baymax, floats them all to the surface and he saves them and everything. And then they're like, okay, well, we're all soaking wet and we need a place to go. And Fred's like, I have a place. And they head off and Fred leaves them to this, like, huge mansion. And they're just like, Fred, what is this place? He's like, welcome to mi casa. That's French for front porch. And Honey Lemon's like, it's not. It's not Fred. Fred, good intentions. Needs to pay a little bit more attention to things though. And he's like, oh, this is my house. And it's like this huge mansion type thing. And like their butler answers the door. And like, they head inside. And they're just like, oh my god. And we do have this funny thing that happens with Baymax that like Baymax and Hero had like done like a fist bump. And Baymax was, Hero tried to teach Baymax, Baymax fist bump. And it's like, pew. And Baymax goes, la 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 la. And so that's just like a running thing through the movie that he does. And he does that to the butler at one point too. It's like the butler is this very like stoic type butler type thing. And it's like, Master Frederick, welcome home. Please come inside. And like, just like Frederick's like, Heathcliff, my man. And I'm just like, I don't know if I feel sorry for this butler or not. Or at least at this point in time, I'm not sure. But give it a couple of minutes and I'll feel more sorry for him. And like, they're looking around around the mansion, and it's like, yeah, this is my parents' house and everything. They're currently off on the family island, and we can go there sometime and frolic. And like, there's a whole theory as to like who Fred's ancestors are. It's actually, there's a whole theory that like Fred's ancestor is like Hans from Frozen, because there's like a statue of Hans in the yard, and there's like paintings all over the house that are like Arendelle or like Hans's horse or like this other stuff. So I'm like, if Fred is descended from Hans, okay, but moving on. And like Fred shows him the room. I want Fred's room. I want this hero merchandise that Fred has. It's awesome. He also has like a picture of himself like painted like He-Man, like on a winged horse or something with like a spear, and he's like super buff, and that's just hilarious. And he has like other paintings around his room, and like other figurines and action figures and like giant plushies and like all this other stuff. And Hero is like focusing on something, and Baymax actually like turns himself into like a giant heating pad so he can like warm up all of the kids, because they're also really cold from getting wet and in the ocean in the harbor. And it's like, they're all just like leaning on him like, good robot, nice warm robot. And Hero is like, well, okay, so we need to figure out who the man in the mask is, and we need to figure out what he's trying to do and why he stole my robots. And Fred comes up with a theory. He's like, your evil man has to be Alistair Cray of Craytech, because like all these other billionaires that are evil are all also like superheroes or supervillains. And so it's just like, oh my god. And then it's just like, Hero's like, well, if I'm gonna fight him, I'm gonna need some help. So he basically decides to upgrade his friends and like helps them, makes them like super suits of their own and everything like that, so they can be superheroes. And he takes Go-Go, he starts with Honey Lemon, and he takes Honey Lemon, and like, because she's so good with chemistry and everything, he basically designs her like this little side bag that has like access to like all this like element. It has like the periodic table on the side of it that she's basically memorized, and so she knows exactly how to like combine different elements into different things. And like the bag is designed to work that way, and so she has that, and she can like use that to make like gel or ice or foam or like a bunch of other stuff. And basically Heathcliff, who's the butler, as I stated, basically gets turned into target practice for them to use, because Heroes is like, okay, so here's what's going to happen. We need to get the mask, because that's where the neural transmitter has to be. We get that, we beat the guy. And, okay. And then, like, he builds Honey Lemon's outfit, and then he builds Go-Go's outfit, which is, he takes, like, her, the wheels that she uses for her bike, and she, he turns those into, like, wheels that she has on her feet that she can then spin really, really fast and like skate around on them and everything. And she has like other ones that she can have on her wrists and her hands and such, that she can use for that. And she can also like throw the discs and then they'll come back, type of a thing. And so she has that, and then he helps Wasabi, like uses his lasers to make like laser type things, that laser like blades that he has. that he can then use for fighting. And then because Fred doesn't really have too much, but he's very good at being inside of his, costume and everything. And he wants to be like a fire-breathing lizard. So Hero designs him like a fire-breathing lizard costume that he can then wear. And then Hero then designs himself, armor, protective armor and such. And then he redesigns Baymax's armor, making it bigger and better and cooler looking. And it's like this nice red armor and everything. And Heathcliff basically gets to act as target practice for everything, and it's just kind of funny watching that happen. And Hero is Baymax explained that he is designed to scan everyone. And he scanned the man in the kabuki mask, and the whole plan is that if they can get Baymax's scanners, his sensors strong enough, they can then use that to scan everyone in San Francisco and find a match to him. And to do that, they need to get him, a good enough sensor, strong enough sensor, and and a good height and everything to be able to scan the city. And Hero, of course, makes it that Baymax can fly because they give him rocket boosters and such like that. And so we get this great scene of once they've all got their their super suits and everything, and Baymax and Baymax and Hero then basically fly around San Francisco, and it's actually kind of a reference to Iron Man in the first Iron Man movie when Tony is in the suit for the first time, that he built in his lab, not in the cave, and he's flying around the LA area, or so the area where he lives. So, it's kind of reminiscent of that and such. And there's ups and downs, and they fly around the Golden Gate Bridge and all this other stuff. And it's just this amazing sequence that I love. And throughout the whole, it's there's not really music in this movie. It's not like a musical, but throughout the whole time where he's developing all of the tech and everything that they're using, they have the song from Immortals by, I believe it's by One Republic. I think. Was it by One Republic or Fall Out Boy? One of the two. I don't remember which, but it's Immortals is the song. I don't remember if it's Fall Out Boy or One Republic, but just type in Immortals song and you'll find it. And it's just a fun song. And they do that and everything. And then, Baymax's whole intention is that he's trying to get Hero more stable, make his mood better and everything after losing Tadashi. And Baymax, Hero is of course feeling better. His mood has improved and everything. And Baymax is well, your mood seems to have improved, therefore, I can deactivate. And Hero's no. We need to find the guy in the mask because he has to be responsible for what happened to Tadashi because he stole my tech. He set the building on fire and he stole my tech. And at this point, they're still under the assumption that it is Aleister Crey that's the one behind the mask. Why they wouldn't just literally just walk to Crey Industries and just have figure out wherever Crey is and then just have him have Baymax scan him or something and then determine that would have been so much easier. But Baymax does this huge scan from on top of one of these giant kites or so that they have all over the place in San Francisco. And he scans the city, and he finds that there's a match to it on on Akuma Island, which is this island off to the side, which I'm pretty sure is a reference to Alcatraz. And they all fly to Akuma Island, and the two girls in Hero are on top of Baymax, and Fred's on one arm, and Wasabi's on the other arm, and Shrabi's just oh my god, this would be so cool if I wasn't scared of heights, but I am terrified of heights, as he's holding on to Baymax, and that's just hilarious. And they get to the island, and bear in mind this was made in 2014. They get to the island, and Wasabi is you guys know what quarantine means because there's a sign on the door that says on the gates that say quarantine with skulls, and it was you guys know what quarantine means, right? And Baymax just literally does a definition of quarantine, and I'm I literally had to pause the movie, and I'm yes, Wasabi and Baymax, everybody that is alive in the world right now that has been alive for the past 18 months knows exactly what quarantine means. And that's just funny. And they're like making their way through the building and everything, trying to, you know, find what's going on there. And like at one point they're just like, they're all just like way too on, like high on nerves. And like there's like a noise behind them and they all freak out and throw their attacks at something. And it's actually just like a pigeon and none of them actually hit it. And Honey Lemon's like, well, at least we know our stuff works. I love Honey Lemon. And they get into where the main part of the building is, and they see that it was built by Crytek, and they see like they end up finding like this control room, and they go through the control room and they find information about what was going on there, and they watch as footage of there had been this test to work on this project that was called I think it was called Silent Sparrow, where they watch via security camera as like Aleister Crowley was showing off this kind of portal teleportation technology to these military people, and there's these two giant portals, not portal as in the video game portal, but just two giant portals that they have open into, like, I'm assuming some form of like subspace, quantum realm, whatever you want to refer to it as, quantum realm Ant-Man reference. And what ends up happening is, they're gonna do an experiment where they, send a human volunteer pilot. She works for the company. She's training for this, through the portal and then out the other side. And they, send her through, and then there's this huge malfunction, and the portals collapse, and everything just kind of blows up, and like it just gets shut down. Quarantine the island, shut down the island, everything. Nobody knows about this. Between Cray and between the, the military and everything, it just shut down entirely. And then this is when they are attacked by the man in the kabuki mask again. And there's this battle, and it's kind of still like the kids kind of figuring out like their tech and everything a little bit more, trying to get a little bit more familiar with it and everything. And they make progress in the fight. But unfortunately, it is revealed during the fight they get the mask off the guy, and it is revealed to be Professor Callahan. He is not dead. He survived the blast. He used Hero's robots to protect him during the blast, and then he stole the robots and is using them to get revenge on Aleister Crowley. And Hero is like, my brother ran back into the building to protect you, to save you. And, Callahan's like, that was his mistake. And this, of course, just makes Hero extremely angry. And he tries to order Baymax to destroy the Man in the Mask, to destroy Callahan. And Baymax can't do that because that's against his programming. And Hero reaches up and pulls out the chip that has his programming in it that was from Tadashi, as opposed to just like his, fighting programming, and tosses that away. And then, Baymax then kind of goes into kind of like dark Baymax mode, and he starts attacking Callahan. And Callahan, is able to grab the mask and, get his machines working again, and he's able to, fight against Baymax. And all the other four, Hero, of course, wants Baymax to destroy Callahan, because I was like, you're the reason my brother's dead, and if he's gone, then you should be too. If he's gone and you're alive, then that's not right. And the other four kids are trying to like stop Baymax, stop him from attacking Callahan, and they do manage to, get the car, get the chip and get it back into Baymax where it's supposed to be. And, he apologizes to them because, Baymax's purpose is to help people, not hurt them. And Baymax, is apologizing and everything. And Hero is just so angry at the other four, and like Callahan escaped and everything because they interfered. And he's so angry at them. And he and Baymax end up flying off because like Baymax's sensor got broke in the battle, and they have to go back home and fix the sensor. And he leaves the other four on the island, and he goes back to the house, and back to his house, and he like fixes the sensor, and Hero tries to take out the chip again, and Baymax won't let him. And this is just where Hero kind of just finally gets to the point where he just kind of breaks down, and he's just like, my brother is dead. He's not coming back no matter how much you say he's here. And, I don't care about any of the other stuff in regards to, it's like, he wants Callahan dead. And I mean, to a degree, I can understand where he's coming from. And the closest thing that I can come with this in my own family is I had an uncle on my mother's side. He died long before I was born. He died in a drunk driving accident. And he was also a drunk driver at the time, unfortunately, which is probably where my aversion to drinking comes from in general. But the other guy that had been in the crash, he did survive. And I don't think my grandma on my mom's side held that against the guy. And I think she even saw the guy like years later or something like that. Or like my mom knows like who it was, but my mom doesn't hold that grudge against the guy because it was an accident, but it still took her brother. But it's more what happened with Callahan and Tadashi was a little bit more of this is, a plan type of a thing by Callahan, just like taking the nanobots and didn't care who else got hurt in the process. He set a building on fire that had people in it. And, Hero or Baymax ends up playing these videos of Tadashi that were, like Tadashi when he was testing out Baymax, trying to get him to working on coding, and like Hero just kind of watches like all these different tests that Tadashi had to do to try to finally get Baymax to work correctly. And, he tells Baymax, by the end of it, by the time he's, done getting him all programmed and he's working correctly, he's like, you're going to help so many people, buddy. And, in the context of like, yeah, he's telling this to Baymax, but it's also in the film itself as we're watching it, it's like he's telling this to Hero. And Hero apologizes to Baymax, and he's like, okay, well, we do need to try to stop Callahan from attacking Cray. And this is when the other four show up, and like, he gets, hugs from them, and they're just like, we understand, we're not mad at you. And he's just like, I'm so sorry I left you on the island. And Fred's like, oh no, it's fine. Heathcliff came and picked us up in the family chopper. If your parents are interested in adopting a daughter that is also a hero nerd, I'm open for business, Fred. Nothing against my own parents, but, in case you're wondering. But there was like, okay, we need to stop Callahan because he's going to attack Cray. And the next day, there's just going to be this big event at Cray Institute, at the Cray Tech. And they're going to, they're going there to protect Cray. And Callahan attacks during the presentation. So it's all the cameras are there. And Honey Lemon showed Hiro more footage that they found at the, while they were waiting for Heathcliff to show up, that they found at the lab. And it's revealed that the girl that went through the portal is Callahan's daughter, Abigail. And he, that's why he's so angry at Cray, because Cray, he cut corners, he wasn't safe, and it cost Callahan his daughter. And now he wants to take away everything from Cray, because it's like, you took away my daughter, I'm going to take away everything that you hold dear. And he, he had the portal, rebuilt, and he uses the nanobots to, put the portal together and to like start sucking in and destroying, this building that Cray has worked so hard to create. And, the heroes show up and they start battling Callahan, and they each kind of end up getting trapped at one point. Like, Hero is separated from Baymax, and Baymax is like kind of just like being covered and consumed to a degree by the nanobots. Hero is like in the air, like hanging onto like a rope while he's almost being pulled into the portal. Fred, Wasabi is like kind of almost being squished and everything by the nanobots, trying to pin him down. Go-Go is trapped in like a sphere of the nanobots that she kind of can't get out of, and like, Honey Lemon is like trapped in like a dome that she created with her stuff, but she's still kind of stuck. And then Fred, like his suit is being like grabbed and pulled apart by the machines, by the nanobots. And Hero finally figures out what they need to do. And he's like, I know how to defeat Callahan. And you guys just need to, use your big brains and think, you think of a different angle. And they each do, Wasabi decides, instead of going like to the side, he goes down, like digs his way out, and then, starts attacking the nanobots. And then Go-Go, instead of just trying to like, cut her way out, she like just like starts spinning herself really fast with the wheels to basically like wear away and like heat up the nanites to the point where they break apart and she can get out of there. Go-Go or Honey Lemon uses her, her chemistry to, get out of her shell and like, collect, trap some of the nanites. And then Fred, who's, in a costume, he's like the costume's being pulled and he's like, no, I can't go any further. I'm going to be pulled apart. Oh, wait, it's just a costume. And he, pulls his arms out and he's like, looks around and he's like, sees like a, like a board on the ground that looks like, the shape of a sign. He's like, hello, sign. And he picks up the sign and starts spinning it and like chops away at the nanites and like, chops them away. And, he uses those to, chop away at the nanites and he's free. And like, he's using what he knows how to do is, being the mascot and spinning signs and everything, which is just funny. And, so they're all getting out and they're all slowly chipping away at the nanites that are being sucked into the portal that's up in the air. And Baymax escapes from where he's being trapped and he gets Hero. And then Hero and Baymax focus on fighting against Callahan. While the building is all being sucked up and everything, they're fighting against Callahan. And, they're all, all the others are, smashing away, cutting away, at the different, nanites, making them, wear away and getting sucked up into the portal. And, slowly they're whittling down the nanites to the point where there's not that many left, to the point where it's just like the nanites that Callahan is standing on and the nanites that are wrapped around Hero and Baymax, and they're able to easily break those. And then Hero, the basically like Hero looks like he's about to have Baymax punch Callahan, but he's like this far away from punching him. And he's like, I'm sorry, but our program prevents us from harming a human life, from taking a human life. And, they take away the nanites, they take away the mask and everything, and they're ready to leave because it's like they've captured Callahan, Craze safe, and they just need to get away from the portal. And they're getting ready to leave, and then Baymax is like staring at the portal, and there's like, what's wrong? He's like, there's someone in there. Life signs show female, and she appears to be in hypersleep. And Callahan is just like, Abigail? And Craig's like, you can't go in there. That portal is going to collapse any minute. It's eating itself away. And Hero's like, we have to try. And like him and Baymax fly in. And they, fly their way through all of the debris and everything. So you got to work your way around the debris from the Kraytech building. And they find Abigail in like the little pod that she went in. And they get her and they start moving her through, through the debris and making their way back out. And they get close to the end, but then there's this huge piece of debris that Baymax has to protect Hero and Abigail from, and it kind of destroys Baymax's armor to the point where he can't fly very well anymore. And Baymax is like, he takes one of his fists that has like the rocket power in it, and he like attaches it to like the ship that Abigail was on, so that way they can then fly the rest of the way out. Because they're very close to the portal exit, but Baymax has to stay in the portal. And Hero is just like, no, I can't lose you too. I can't lose you too. And Baymax is just like, I will always be here. It's like, this is what I'm supposed to do, is to protect you and to protect people. And I cannot deactivate until you say that you are satisfied with your care. And Hero finally does. He does say, I am satisfied with my care. And Baymax, deactivates and lets go of the rocket glove and lets the rocket glove glow and go, and that sends Hero and Abigail out through the portal, and Baymax is kind of trapped in the portal as it collapses, and they, the two of them escape, the two humans escape, and Abigail is fine. She was in hypersleep, and they start getting, the police have shown up and everything, and like Abigail's fine. They got her out of the thing. She's waking up. She remembers who she is. Callahan's arrested. Craig's explaining everything that happened. And all 6 of the kids, well, the 5 kids, because Baymax is not there, leave. And then, there's like we get like this news report of like, there's, all this other stuff, there's, these heroes, and we're still baffled by who they are and where they came from and like all this other stuff. And, we can't explain where they came from. and these heroes and everything, and like we cut to it's a couple of, or maybe like that next week or so, and they're at the the Lucky Cat Cafe that they're that Aunt Cass runs and everything. And Hero is ready to go to school, go to the the technology institute, and his aunt sends him off happily and everything, and he ends up getting to have Tadashi's old lab, and he discovers he still has the glove that he made for Baymax. That's the rocket glove. And he does the whole fist bumps it, and blah, 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 and inside the glove he finds the chip that had all of Tadashi's programming in it for Baymax. And there's another Baymax that Tadashi had created, and Hero puts the chip into that, and Baymax wakes up, and he of course has all of his memories. And Hero is just so happy that he has Baymax again. And then the six of them now are actually Big Hero 6. They're saving people, protecting people in the city, stopping accidents, all this other stuff while still being students. And we get like throughout the credits, we get a lot of like Aunt Cass now knows about Baymax, and like he's part of the family. There's like that you show them like getting different like saving different people and stuff like that, and just like catching up on the different characters and stuff like that, like showing them together and having fun. And like we see different like newspaper articles of it's like genius boy granted huge grant, awarded huge grant, and it's Hero and like all this other stuff. And like they reopen like the exhibit hall, and it's called it's named after Tadashi, and some of this other stuff. And so it's just like this nice little like catch up thing that you get with that. And then we do get a post credit scene, which is like, it's a Marvel movie, you kind of gotta have a post credit scene. And it's Fred actually is in his mansion, and he's talking to this giant portrait of his father and his mother and him. And he's like, I really wish that you were home more instead of on the island so much. I really hope that you'd be proud of me. And Fred like touches the painting, and it opens into this like secret lair type thing, and there's like a whole bunch of like underpants all over the wall that are like superhero type underpants, like from a costume, and they're like weapons and a computer. And he's like looking around at them, and he's like, what is all of this? And then his dad comes in behind him, and it's the character looks exactly like Stan Lee. And it's like the Stan Lee character's Fred's dad is just like talking to him, and like they're so happy and everything. And they're just it's just like, Dad, I'm so happy to see you, son. I'm so proud of you, and we've got a lot to talk about. I'm like, yeah, you do. So just like that's where the movie ends. So we of course have in regards to the cast, we have Ryan Potter as Hiro Hamada. We have Scott Adsit as Baymax. I believe he's just like a comedian that has done a whole bunch of other stuff. We have Jamie Chung as Gogo Tamago. She also played Mulan in Once Upon a Time. She's also been in a few other things from what I remember. We have Damian Wayans Jr., who is Wasabi, and he is part of the legacy of like the Wayans brothers and everything. He's part of that legacy of like their son and everything. So it's just like, it's like, I know that name. And actually Wasabi was originally a much more of a kind of a sloppier, like, happy-go-lucky type character, very relaxed type character, but that changed when like Damian Wayans was cast, and it's just like, no, we've got a better idea for this character. We have Genesis, apologize if I mispronounced that, Rodriguez as Honey Lemon. She also provides the Spanish voice of Honey Lemon because she can speak Spanish. We have T.J. Miller as Fred. And for references to other things, he also plays Weasel in the Deadpool movies, and he also plays Tough Nut Thorsten in the How to Train Your Dragon movies. We have Maya Rudolph as Aunt Cass. Also seen her in like SNL for so long, and she's in like one of the Lego movies as the mom. We have James Cromwell as Professor Robert Callahan. He's been in a lot of other movies and a lot of other shows and everything. He was like the farmer in like the Babe movies, for like Babe the Pig movies, and he's was in Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. where he plays the billionaire guy in that was also friends with the guy that created Jurassic Park. We have Alan Tudyk as Alistair Cray. Again, this follows his pattern of being in a lot of different Disney movies in the in a run, because he was King Candy, and he is Duke Wesselton, Duke of Wesselton in Frozen. We have Daniel Henney as Tadashi Hamada, and then of course we have Stan Lee as Fred's father. In regards to trivia for the movie, so Big Hero 6 has become the 13th highest grossing Disney movie, and the fourth highest grossing, highest that is not a Pixar movie, only following Zootopia, Lion King, and Frozen. Big Hero 6 is the first Walt Disney animated feature film to be inspired by a comic book series of the same name, just called Big Hero 6, and as opposed to the traditional fairy tale or fictional book, a famous legend, or an entirely original concept. Yeah, they do tend to do a lot of fairy tales. Although based on the Marvel property, Big Hero 6 is not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but Marvel did help, of course, with the film itself. In Avengers Age of Ultron, does contain a reference to Tadashi, because when Tony Stark can no longer use Jarvis, because Jarvis is now inside of Vision, he has 3 different AIs that he can pick from. One is Friday, which is of course the one that he goes with, which is a reference to, I believe, My Girl Friday from the James Bond movies, or His Girl Friday. And then there is one that is called Jocasta, which is a reference to the comics. And then there is one that is called Tadashi. That is one of the AI cards. That would have been kind of a fun one as well, but it's a nice little reference there. And according to the Big Hero 6 character design supervisor, Jin Kim, one of the main goals of the movie was to introduce multicultural characters to allow everyone to feel some familiarities about their own culture, and introduce the world's to introduce the world's racial diversity, of course. So both Hiro and Tadashi are of course Japanese. We have Gogo, who is Korean. We have Honey Lemon, who is Latina. We have Wasabi, who is African, and we have Fred, who is of course Caucasian. And Kim revealed that the lead characters, although they were later given Japanese names, were originally envisioned as Korean during the development. So Hiro and Tadashi. And those are changed a little bit. In the comics, I think they are of Korean descent, but I could be wrong with that. And then we move on to some of the miscellaneous things that we have with Big Hero 6. So first off, there is a Big Hero 6 TV series that they did make. I think I've seen like a couple of episodes of it. I do want to go back and end up watching them at some point. Same thing with like the Tangled series. It's like I've seen the first season of the Tangled series, but I would like to see the rest of it too. I would like to go back and watch the Big Hero 6 TV series, which I do think that they have on Disney Plus. And basically the things that we see about this is Aunt Cass knows about Baymax throughout the course of the series, because we see him at the cafe a lot and everything and helping out. And whether or not she knows that they're superheroes, I don't know. But that kind of goes along with like the whole like, well, Aunt May doesn't know that Peter Parker is a superhero. Like, Peter Parker runs around wearing a mask. I would hope that Aunt Cass is smart enough to figure out that, okay, you guys are superheroes and you better be freaking careful, because just be careful. We also see Fred's father quite a bit. And I think his hero name is like Boss Awesome, I think was his name. And, I think he's voiced by Stan Lee, and all the times that he pops up, Stan Lee, may he rest in peace. And, he pops up a lot as, like, Fred's dad, and, like, I think he helps at various points in time. Like, they communicate with him a lot and everything, and I'm pretty sure he's kind of, like, the main funder for a lot of their, like, tech that they have to make and everything, because they have to have, like, money to be able to pay for, like, the replacement chemicals, or, that Honey Lemon uses, or, different things like that. So he helps with that a lot. And then we do have several references to Tadashi throughout the course of the series itself. There's lots of flashbacks that we get with Tadashi and Hiro being kids when they're younger and everything. And I do believe most of the characters came back to voice the characters in the series. I would think like TJ Miller might be the one exception to that, and they've just found somebody else to voice Fred. I would love it if they did a Big Hero 6 too, but I don't think that's going to happen at this point in time. Could. That's why they did the series. But, Hiro, of course, goes to the Institute with them and everything, and what ends up happening is the school, they named one of the buildings after Tadashi. And one of the things that happens is they posthumously allow Tadashi to be able to graduate. And Hiro is the one that gets to accepts Tadashi's diploma. When the graduation ceremony for like Honey Lemon and Go-Go and Wasabi happens, they have this large photo of Tadashi there behind them, and Hiro delivers the speech about his brother and his desire to keep to protect others, keep helping others and everything, and so we get that. I don't know if we ever find anything else about like Hiro and Tadashi's parents, but yeah, there's a lot of theories that go around with Big Hero 6 with like that Fred is like Hans's descendant, and there's another one that like there's time travel involved where like Hiro is actually Tadashi, that Tadashi like Hiro when he gets older he went back in time and tried to stop his brother from dying, and like things happen and everything. There's a whole theory, just like look it up. And then the final thing that I did want to point out in regards to Big Hero 6 is there is a Big Hero 6 San Fransokia world in Kingdom Hearts. In Kingdom Hearts 3. It takes place after the end of the first movie, because by the time that like Donald, Goofy, and Sora land in San Fransokia, the team is there. Baymax, Hiro, Go-Go, Honey Lemon, Wasabi, and Fred are all there as characters that you interact with, and they actually run around with you at various points in time. And like they help you fight the Heartless and everything. And you actually at one point in the show, and like you run around like San Fransokia, and it's like they kind of recreated a fair amount of San Fransokia from the movie, and it's really great. You like run around there, and like daytime, nighttime, there's like different targets that you have to run around and get, and like fun racing games and mini games in there that I was okay at. And you have to do different things like that. And of course, because like with any section that you're in Kingdom Hearts, there's like a storyline that you have to finish up in that section in order to like save that world and get like a treasure from that world, get like a key blade that you get from that world. And in this case, you have to end up fighting against a dark version of Baymax, because the Heartless and the Organization 13 that you have to fight throughout the course of the Kingdom Hearts series from like game 2 onward or so, you end up having to fight against this dark version of Baymax that is actually the Baymax that was in the portal, and that they were able to get out of the portal, and they reprogrammed it and made it evil, and you have to fight against it with like the nanobots. Like the nanobots are working with Baymax, the evil Baymax, and you do have to defeat it. And it's very well done and everything, and so it's like by the end of it, it's like there's now 2 Baymaxes, and so it's like now it's kind of like Big Hero 7-ish type thing. And like you run around, you get like a keyblade from like San Francisco that's like Baymax type themed and Big Hero 6 type themed and everything. And like you fly around with like Tadashi and that type of stuff. So it's just like a fun thing that they did for that. I did enjoy running around San Francisco in the Kingdom Hearts world. I did like doing that. And you deal with the Heartless and everything, and there's side games and everything that you have to do in San Francisco. And they just kind of recreated what was in the game, what was in the movie. I don't know if it pops up in anything else for Big Hero 6 references and other things. I mean, like, there's Big Hero 6 references in, like, other movies, of course, or other Disney movies or other Disney projects or so. I don't think that Big Hero 6 is ever going to be becoming, like, a big part of, like, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as cool as that would be. I don't see that happening anytime soon, unfortunately. But I do think that, like, some of the stuff that they have going in the comics references some of the stuff from the movie itself, or like they have like a different section that is like comics based on this version of Big Hero 6 now, because of course Marvel likes to do that. At some point I'll probably end up watching the Big Hero 6 animated series, because I did enjoy the movie. I very much like the movie. I love the movie. It's just so funny to watch it. And Baymax is adorable, and the rest of the teens are all adorable and funny, and they all very much care about each other and love each other. And Aunt Cass is kind of the aunt that I would be, because she's this aunt that she was like, she didn't know how to take care of kids, but she's not going to just like let her I don't know if we ever find out exactly if it was like their mother was her sister or if their father was her sister. I don't know. We do see some pictures in the background of their parents, but we don't ever get an exact explanation as to like where that lands. Although throughout the course of the animated series, from what I looked up what I found when I was researching it is Callahan is part of the animated series. I don't know if he ever has to end up helping Big Hero 6, but I do think at one point, like, he gets interrogated by the police, and they're like, tell us who the children in Big Hero 6 are. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. They saved 2 lives. They saved Alistair Cray, and they saved my daughter. And I'm not going to, like, reveal who they are. And, Alistair Cray pops up in the series a lot. I think at one point he even takes, like, Aunt Cass out on a date. I don't know if that's, like, a running thing where, like, they actually become a couple, or if it's just, like a couple of things and then, like, they're no longer a couple. I don't know. But, like, we see a lot of that. Like, we watch Hiro kind of grow up a little bit throughout the course of the series from the little bit that I, gathered when I was reading about it. And I think there is like a character that like Hiro ends up getting a crush on, or that like has a crush on Hiro. And of course there's, it's like other super villains that develop in the story that they have to fight. And then some of it's also, like teenage angst or like college students angst or stuff like that, which is just kind of fun. So I do like the series. For the little bit that I've seen of the series, I think I've only seen like 1 or 2 episodes, but I did like it. And I do love the movie. And the next movie, if I remember correctly, should be Zootopia. But at the time that this goes up, it is obviously going to be in October. That's the time that this video goes up. And I will be doing some like Halloween type movie reviews. Like I have a whole thing planned for like maybe not the last full week before Halloween, but like at least the last couple of days before Halloween, and then like the first 2 days of November because of Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead. Because I've always liked that. So I'm going to do like some videos that are like Halloween themed and then like Day of the Dead themed in regard to that and like that time frame. There might be a few other, Halloween-ish videos throughout the month. But for the most part, it'll be near the end of the month. For, reasons. I do like Halloween, but I am not a horror movie person by any means. I don't like horror. Don't. I know horror is not for me. I mean, like, Corpse Bride's fine, Nightmare Before Christmas is fine, most of the Scooby-Doo movies are fine. Pretty much most of the Scooby-Doo movies at this point in time are fine for me, but I don't do horror movies. They're not for me by any means. But I'll be doing some videos about those, along with some other miscellaneous videos, in regards to Halloween. And I do have a devil fruit video that I'm going to be doing that is an original devil fruit, well, kind of original-ish devil fruit, or at least my variation of an original devil fruit, that kind of goes along with like Dia de Muertos, which will get explained with that one. So I thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have a nice rest of your day. Bye! Wait till my brother sees you. You're going to help so many people, buddy. So many.